second to digest this statement, you'll realize that just about all money runs from this basic premise. If it solves a problem, money will be thrown at it. If it's $1 million problem, then the solution will make you millions. If it's $1 billion problem, then the solution will make you billions. Think about all the problems that a site like Amazon solves. The hassle of going to a store, the hassle of having to wait weeks for a delivery, cheaper prices, and so on. Not to mention all the other companies that Amazon owns and the problems that those companies solve. Jeff Bezos helped solve $1 billion problem and was rewarded favorably for doing so.
I see what you did.
If you've been chasing money, then you've been doing it all wrong. It sounds almost paradoxical, but if you want money, it isn't money that you should be looking for. You should be looking for problems, and more importantly, solutions to those problems. And once you've found that solution, make a business around it. Wait, so that's it? Just solve problems and money will appear? So I'm gonna have to create the next Amazon for me to be rich, or the next Facebook or Google? You've gotta be kidding me, right? I don't even know how to code. I don't even have the money to start something of that scale. Hold on. You're once more going into old patterns of thinking. Start with a problem. Always start with a problem. Listen to the market around you. What are people saying they don't like? What are people saying they wish existed? What are people saying frustrates them? What do people think is incredibly inconvenient? Is that a problem that you can solve? And also, is it a problem that is worth solving? The final step of this equation to wealth is finding a scalable solution to the problem. Your solution needs to affect a magnitude of people. Starting a restaurant? That's not scalable. You're constrained to the local area and the footfall of that area. But a franchise? Now that's more scalable. Is your solution a piece of software? Then that means once that software has been built, you can scale it infinitely online without needing to worry about things like production or shipping costs, as it's all done virtually. Good luck finding infinite scale with a job. But be careful, does your solution require your time to generate money? Let's say you were a yoga teacher that charged $100 per hour. Congratulations, you only made yourself another job disguised as a business. There's only a certain amount of lessons that you can feasibly do in one day, and therefore your income is time-bound. But if you created an online yoga class that ran 24/7 with lessons you only had to create once, now that is scalable. Scaling your solution is critical here, so do not get lost on this point. Automation also plays an important role. Systems and processes will keep your business running like a smooth machine if implemented properly. If there is something in your business that you can outsource to somebody else or hire an employee to do it for you, assuming it financially makes sense for you to do so, then do it. Tasking yourself with everything is a bad thing. As much as you may think you're the best, there's someone out there that can do a better job than you. Once you've found a solution, it's your job to make sure that solution can be accessed by everyone in your market. It's not about your ego, and it's not about what you're passionate about. The market doesn't care about your passions. So now that you have your profitable business running with the right systems and processes in place, it's time to move on and reap what you sowed. There are two likely paths you're going to face at this point. You either continue your business or cash in and sell it. This is the acquisition, the moment someone buys the solution that you spent years building a business around. This is Instagram being acquired by Facebook for $1 billion. This is PayPal being sold to eBay for $1.5 billion, of which $165 million went straight to Elon Musk's pocket, and the countless other liquidation events that happen across the world. This is where all the effort that you spent into building your company comes to fruition. And if you choose to continue running your business, well, there's a multitude of reasons for you wanting to do so. Maybe you love the company that you built and want to stick with your baby. Maybe you think you can add more value to the company and sell it down the line for more than it's currently worth. Perhaps that business runs passively in the background, so you don't have to do much to keep the wheels turning. Or maybe it's a combination of these three things. Either way, you did it. You solved a problem that the market wanted solving, and it rewarded you favorably for doing so. And so now I ask you, what was it all for anyway? For most of you, it was never about the money. Money is just a piece of paper, a number on a screen. Its value is only backed up by our belief in its value. From the very start, this was never about the money. Paying off the mortgage, buying your dream car, traveling around the world, never having to worry about your financial situation, it's the freedom that you were looking for. Your destination wasn't anything monetary related. It was a feeling, a sensation, the ability to do what you want whenever you wanted without ever having to cast a thought towards, can I afford this? Have I used up all my holidays for the year? How am I going to pay the rent? Will I be able to live off my pension? What dreams will I have to sacrifice because I can't afford to pursue them? The most important lesson from this video was never about the nature of money. It was about the one valuable resource that we all have, the one resource we will never be able to reclaim: time. Is giving up a large chunk of your time towards a job that you probably don't like worth it? Is your life settled on working, coming home, watching the telly, sleeping, waking up the next day, and repeating the same cycle till you retire? How many more hours of your life do you let slip through because of this pattern? Or perhaps you're fine with that reality. Perhaps you have no other choice but to follow that path for the time being. And if that's the case, there's nothing to worry about. The most you got from this video was a little entertainment and maybe a change in perspective. But there are those of you that understand the other side. Those of you that have the desire to never need to worry about money ever again. And so I feel the need to remind you, stop chasing money. Chase problems and find the solution to those problems. This is the equation through which all money is found. If you desire liberty through never needing to worry about money ever again, then let solving problems be the meaningful struggle in your life. Does it mean you'll be happy at the end of the road? Does it mean you'll feel fulfilled? Only you can answer that question. But if your struggle is meaningful, then perhaps it's worth pursuing.
Signed by the 12 members of the Executive, giving Marquis power of telling God.
And there it is, your equation to wealth. Of course, I missed out on a lot of intricacies in this video. The topics of business, money, entrepreneurship are far too vast for me to cover in a single video like this. But if you do want to get started on this journey, I do recommend you.
All right, good evening. Welcome everybody, and thanks for your time today. So we're going to begin this session, and I hope you learned something out of this video. My goal today is to be able to go over ways that have helped me to build, build from the scratch, from nothing to over 5 million in net worth, and also to be able to accomplish that is in the first quarter of 2023 to be able to get that is over 1.3 million. That is for the first quarter of 2023. So that is my goal today, to be able to discuss this. I have Professor Ikutu on the line. He will be helping with some of the discussions or the practical ways for people to make a hustle back home, that is in Ghana or any of the countries that are not in the United States. So that is what we're going to discuss here today. So thank you again for joining. Before we begin, I'm a Christian, so I always want to start with a word of prayer before we begin. So I'm going to say, Father, in the name of Jesus, I thank you for today. I thank you that I have the opportunity to speak to these people. Lord, as I'm about to sow these seeds in their minds, and also I'm about to speak to them, Lord, give me the knowledge and insight to be able to relate to them in a very personal way, and also to be able to share some details so that at the end of this discussion and at the end of this today, I pray the Lord, may you give me, or may you help them to be able to use this in a practical way, so they'll be able to get men and women who will be able to also amass that much of wealth or generational wealth that you want us to accomplish. I give you praise and I give you all the adoration. In Jesus' name have I prayed. Amen. So this is now O Norte Global Impact Ministry. And then today I'm going to be the guest speaker, and I'm going to start the session now. The first key that if you have any questions, please feel free to ask in the chat, and I'll do my possible best to, to answer it. Mr. Ken, I'm going to make you a co-host so that this way, if there's any question, you could just thank me to answer it in case I don't see it. Thank you. All right, so intentional, So this is an international financial workshop, and today's goal I already discussed. So I'm just going to make it an open forum quickly so that I can see where everybody stands. And the purpose of today's meeting is to discuss the practical and intentional ways to gain financial freedom and also to build a generational wealth. That is the purpose of today's meeting. And then let's see here. So let me ask this question. How do you define wealth or money? Or what does it, anybody can answer this. Don't feel shy. You can also type it in the chat. I'm gonna try to make it interactive as possible. So don't feel shy or anything. So what do you define money or wealth? Or what does it seem to you when somebody say money or wealth? Anybody can answer this. Don't be shy. So what does money or wealth mean to you? Or is it a big grammar English? So I should just break it down a little bit. All right, let me just change the question then. Maybe it's a big, what would it mean for you to have enough money that you don't have to worry about anything? What would that mean to you? Or having financial freedom, what would that mean to you? I'm not getting.
No, not sorry.
Yeah, let's go ahead.
I feel like for me, money is like surface level. Like it's like something that you consume on a basis and whatnot. It comes and goes almost. And I define wealth as like the ability, like the video kind of touched on, is like the ability to have freedom from not worrying about money, right? And I think a lot of times when you shift from that like paycheck to paycheck mindset and you have like real asset and stuff like that, I think that's when you reach a level of wealth where you no longer worry about money as a component. So I feel like they're kind of different in that sense.
Thank you very much. So Sister Alice, Alice just described wealth as just the value of freedom and money. Being part of wealth, it's just limited to one thing, but then it's like it comes and goes, like a currency flows and it goes somewhere else. But wealth is where that current stays within you, or that money or wealth stays within you. So thank you, Sister Alice, for sharing that. And I'm looking in the chat now, and it looks like we have a couple of suggestions. It says Isaac said to have a business system, or to have a business or a system that continually generates income for me. And Mr. Kenneth is saying that money gives you the power to facilitate any transaction. Wealth is a generational. Sister Demetrius, Joseph, an exchange of a product of goods and service or skills. That's definitely true, and these are all definitions of money and also the definitions of wealth. So with the next one, I'm just going to give, I'm just going to give a quick overview of what these two means. Let's see. Mr. Kent also said, wealth abundance. Wealth is an abundance of possessions, including money. That is true. All right, so we're just going to dive in. So the next one, it says, well, wealth and money. And here I just did a one-on-one correlation between them, not a correlation, but just the difference. So wealth, that is, if you read wealth, it says having an abundance of what you need and what you want. Wealth is also living in the state of financial freedom. Wealth is also being free of bad debt. So I just want you to notice here, it says debt. So that means you could have debt, but then the key here is saying having being free from bad debt. So that means there's a good and bad debt. Hopefully we'll be able to get to that stage during this conversation today. I'm hoping that it'll be brief, but hopefully we'll be able to get there and discuss more further if it's necessary. Or you could always serve a time. I always have Mondays and Thursdays after 8 p.m. for free consultation for anybody who needs it. And it says some debts are good and some debts are bad. It says living in a spiritual and mental and financial sound state of being, and also sharing your blessings or sharing your money or what you have. And when it comes to money, money is only just a tool and not a possession. It's powerless and also it's mindless, and it's a universal language and assets, or sometimes assets, and also it's a measure of your wealth. So this comes into play, or this tells us that when it comes to wealth, yes, indeed, money is also a big factor of it. So now, how do we actually build on this? How do we grow in terms of when it comes to wealth and when it comes to money? How do we grow and build from there? Now, as we go on, I'm going to tell you how I saw it in the past and how people that I see them today who could have been in the same shoes as mine, who could have made more than what I'm making now, what they've always said and what they still saying as their confession versus what, how we could get out of those simple confessions or things that holds us from becoming wealthy or acquiring the amount of money or wealth or the freedom that we need, because we just discussed that wealth is something that gives you freedom. So these are some old ideas and new ideas. With this one, the only thing that I want you to take out of is everybody views wealth differently. And it all depends on where you stand and your financial standing. Your definition of wealth would be different from my definition of wealth, or when it comes to poverty or brokenness or anything of that. So your definition will be very different from my definition. So you could look at the screen, and if you look at the screen, you're going to see there's an old idea and also a new idea. I'm just going to read one or two of them so that we can see how it all plays in. So wealth is an abundance of money. That is the old idea, and it's still the same. It's kind of the same. It says wealth is what your personal experience of freedom and fulfillment. It's about living a life that lights you up. So how many of you would not like this? Let me just ask this question. How many of you would want a life of freedom, or maybe a life of, what do you call it, abundant money? That is, money is not even a problem. I'm sure a lot of us have it, and most of us come as, may have come from a different part of the world, just to the United States, because came from a different part of the world to the United States just to be able to see these goals and see these accomplishments come to pass. And sometimes growing up, I believe that we've had our parents tell us, or maybe the society, to dictate what is wealth and what would make the belief of wealth. That is, choosing certain careers to show that you're wealthy, and also all of these other stuff. But today I'm going to tell you, yes, some of it is correct and some of it may not be realistically true, but you can always work towards making it true. So I'm going to move on to the next page, and then with that, we'll be able to see. So with the next screen, so it says, these are some of the quick facts and examples or excuses that people make on why they can't be wealthy. And before we see that, you can see that on the screen, but can anybody tell me, or can you guys tell me, why do you think people are not wealthy? Or why do you think, I'm going to just skip from the screen, but let me just ask this question. Why do you think the poor remain poor and the rich get richer? Or why do you think, in your own personal experience too, why do you think that it's not easy to become wealthy, or it's not easy to be financially free?
People are scared of taking risks.
Definitely true. The first one is taking risks. Yes, that is definitely true. So anyone else? We have taken risks.
I think there's a lot of
So I think that people have this mindset that
Go ahead, Adra.
sorry. I think people are scared that they will fail in life, and then also they have this mindset that even if I try, it is whom you know, so they won't even bother trying, because it's all about connection back home, let's say, everywhere. So one is failure, and two, they have this negative mindset even before they start doing something.
So negative mindset, and also the thought of failure. So they don't think past what the failure could bring. Right, thank you very much. Alice, you have tried to say something, please go ahead.
I just wrote it in the chat, but I said that there's a lot of trauma revolving around money. And I think a lot of times, especially like growing up, I feel like a lot of people put a lot of stresses on like money, money, money that they don't really dissect the importance of financial literacy or financial capacity and financial knowledge, which are all different things that helps a person attain wealth. But I don't think America or any other country does a good job at explaining those things to people at an earlier age, but rather money is seen as something that like you work for it instead of it working for you in some extent. So yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So that's also very true. Sometimes it's just our upbringing or society or where we find ourselves dictates what wealth means to us or how we can make it. Was anybody else chiming in? Mr. Larry, were you saying something? Mr. Larry, or were you trying to say something? I couldn't hear you. All right. So we're going to jump in. Definitely what you shared was very true. When it comes to making wealth or having enough, or even starting a new venture or starting something new, there's always that ups and downs that basically holds us. So some of the ups and downs is what you just discussed. There is taking risks, afraid of taking risks, also failure, negativity, and all of these things basically are some of the things that makes one not want to, pursue that, it takes you out of your comfort zone. Let me say it that way. So it's something that takes you out of the comfort zone is what sometimes hinders us from going forward. So I'm going to move on to what exactly are some of these things that, practical things. So some of the things that I've heard other people say, Prince, will you try to say something? Okay. Some of these practical things are the first one that I wrote down was a lack of education and also the skills and knowledge. That is always very true. When it comes to the lack of education, the skills and knowledge, educating oneself it's not always the formal way. The formal way is, you go to school, you pay tuition. And then some of the excuses that I've had people make is the tuition is too much. I can't pay the tuition. And sometimes if you ask people why they don't have a specific kind of degree or anything of that sort, they'll tell you that, the tuition was very high, so I had to drop out of school and all that. That is always very true, or that could be a realistic case. But honestly, does that really stop someone from becoming what you're learning on their own, like self-educating themselves, like YouTube and all these things that are available now? Now, the other one is also people use a lot is limited opportunities. That is, they feel like they stuck or they don't have that favorable thing. They're like, I don't have the connection like you do, or this and that. A lot of people use that. Also, the fear of failure, which was discussed previously, somebody said previously, I wrote the definition there. But yes, people worry a lot. And then with worrying a lot, it's good to worry sometimes, but it's not always necessary. Now, most of the principles that I've lived by, we'll be talking about shortly, is basically like a lot of books and also a lot of, if I say a lot of books, a lot of audiobooks. My goal this year for books was to read at least, not read, but I don't necessarily have the time to sit down and read, but I have a lot of audiobooks. My goal was to finish that is 150 books by the end of the year. But then before the month May or the end of May, I had already finished 80 different books, which includes the full reading of the Bible. Now, why do I bring this up? I bring this up because most of the books always say the same thing, especially say the same thing or try to, like the Bible already gives the definition of certain things. Like it says, do not worry about anything, but in everything, through prayer and supplication. The Bible defines it all and gives us a clear principle, but then we don't take it. But all of these other books that I've read over the years, and also even just recently, most of them use the same principles as in the Bible. But the fact is, they don't mention directly that, Jesus or the name of maybe God or anything of that sort. But they make it in a way that seems like it's their own thing. So one key that I always take away from all of these things is the Bible already lays down the principles. Most books also lay down the principles. So the first key to becoming wealthy is to seek what is out there. That is to seek books, to seek audiobooks, and also to seek what you don't know. Try to learn something that you don't even know, because you never know where all these things are going to come from. So now, some say time constraints, that is the dedication to their family, the dedication. It's like there's not much time in the day. Yeah, it's definitely, there's not much time in the day for everybody. Also, they'll say that there's not much time in, in the year to accomplish it. Oh, look at this, the years, we already in July, or we're almost in July, and I haven't been able to accomplish anything. But the truth is that all of these factors always exist. They would always be there. And they're not going anywhere, regardless if you make 10,000 a year, or if you make 50,000 a year. Sometimes you could change it, but depending on how you spend this money, or if it's been the same thing over and over, it's not going to change, or it's not going anywhere. Pretty soon, I'm going to be talking about how to turn these things around. So the next one, or some of the quick facts about why people cannot be wealthy, or people feel that they're not wealthy, also is what? Living a comfort lifestyle. They don't want to go out of their comfort zone. Also having a fixed mindset. Having a fixed mindset on, what do you call it? Being a fixed mindset on, like, as for me, or like for me, this kind of a stereotypical thing, that for my family, there's nobody who's wealthy, or for my family, there's this and that. People always have something or some excuse that they're going to give to you on why they're not wealthy. Also fixed mindset, so also the lack of discipline and consistency. Now, this is one of the biggest ones that up to date, even me myself, as much as I try to be the best at it, it's, sometimes it's difficult. That is the lack of discipline and consistency. Now, why do I bring this up? For one, to attain something, or for like starting up afresh, sometimes it was very difficult. I try to wake up in the morning just to go to the same old thing. It goes back to the same old thing that I was doing. Sometimes it feels like I don't feel like getting up, or I don't feel like just going back there to do the same thing, which every day it's like growing, but then it's taking forever. So I want to just give up on it. These are some of the things or hurdles that I had, but then with time, you just have to develop a belief. You just have to develop a belief that if I don't do it, no one else is going to do it. And that's one thing that my mom and my sisters know so much. Yeah, I always tell them in the local language in Tree, I'm like, Semimaya, that means Samaya or Bialenya. That means if I don't do it, no one else is going to do it. And in the end, it's like, this is the goal that I want to accomplish. So if that's the goal that I want to accomplish, where do I start, or how do I get there from there? And when I started, I had no mentor, I had nobody, it was zero. It was basically me as a broke person and having nothing to do. So we'll be talking about this a little bit more later on, but it says lack of discipline and also persistence in doing what you do. And also the company of friends that you surround here. Now, let me ask this question, because this question comes up a lot when I'm speaking to a lot of people. So what do you call it? Where do you see yourself with the friends you surround now? So let's say you have 5 friends or 3 friends, with what they're doing now, do you think that if you keep on with the same thing that your friends are doing now, in the next 5 years, you reach a state of financial freedom or financial well-being? This could be a personal question, or if you just want to shed light on how does friendship influence your wealth, or how does friendship influence your money growth? So just think about it for yourself, and this should be something personal that you have to accept. With your friendship or your circle of people that you're surrounded with what they're doing now and with what they do every day, would this lead to the successful life, or the money driven, or maybe the financial breakthrough that you're trying to accomplish within the next 5 years? That is the first thing that I want you to think about. And also this should help you this should help you select or surround yourself with make a better decision with the number of people or the circle of friends that you choose. So I'm going to move on to the next one because I'm trying to be a little bit quick so that we can have more time to conversate. So now, this here basically talks about why the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. Now, with this one, for instance, it's going to be a little bit in depth. If I say a little bit in depth, or this may take, maybe you may know it already, or maybe this may take an advanced skill or knowledge to be able to know what we're talking about now when it comes to why the rich always stay rich and why the poor always stay poor. Now, the first one is what do you call it? Income distribution on several sources of income. And also the rich always invest in a good chunk of earnings and focus on the providing value and market profits, and also leverage debt to make money, and also make financial literacy, or basically build their knowledge or build their financial literacy. The poor also, what did the poor do? The poor always were one source of income at a time to make money and also spend on liabilities and focus on making money instantly, on use debt for liabilities and don't have time to learn. Now, I'm going to ask this question now. If you want, you could look on the screen. The question is, I think we said it previously, but with knowing this, what do you think, how do you think a rich person defines money and wealth compared to a poor person? Or if I say poor, I'm not trying to beat anybody down that anybody's poor, but what do you, please zoom out the screen. Let me see if I can. All right, it's better now. Let me see. I'm just gonna read it again. I'm not sure because I have this screen of full screen. It's still difficult to see it, or I'm just going to read it out again. So what this says is the rich get richer. The rich they always have different income sources, and the poor have maybe one or two income sources. The rich invest in good chunk of earnings. The poor invest in liabilities. The rich focus on providing value and marketing profits, and the poor focus on money instantly. And also the rich leverage debt to make money, and the poor use debt for liabilities like credit cards to buy other things that are not of value. And also the rich have financial literacy or financial knowledge, and the poor do not have financial knowledge. So my question is, how do you see this come into play in our everyday activity? Or maybe with yourself, what is your view of money? And the first time you receive money, what is the first thing that comes into your mind? Or the first day you get paid, what is the first thing that comes into mind?
Paying bills.
Paying bills, okay. Anyone else? So when you get money, what is the first thing that comes into mind? I was just, Stajua just mentioned paying bills. Anyone else?
Savings.
Savings, yeah. Mm-hmm. Anyone else? Let's just mention invest. All right. Invest in the long term and short term. All right. Was somebody saying something? Sister Yvonne said chill, and Faith said tired, and unlimited wants and needs. Okay, so saving up. All right. So it looks like a lot of things are coming into play here. I'm just going to share this screen because it looks like people are typing in the chat. But definitely these are all things that is very necessary. That is, if you look at the screen, savings is very necessary. Paying your bills is very necessary. So that you don't always accumulate debt. All of these things are the social norms or the regular things that people do on a daily basis. Now, I'm going to share what I did previously when I had the money. So, or I still do now, not previously. I still do this now every now and then. So the first thing when I get paid, and mind you, I used to do 2 or 3 jobs at a time. and still I was very, very broke. Like broke, if I say broke, like very, very, like always living from paycheck to paycheck. So I had to have a different mindset or develop a different attitude in this one. And the way I wanted it was, I knew that I wanted to have money in the long term to be able to use it to build my wealth. So the first thing that I did was I had to open a, what do you call it? Some companies will allow you to do a 401k account. So that was the first one. I knew that I'm not going to see the money. So automatically I set aside 10 to 15%, and that money just went there. And in this case, I knew I couldn't touch it unless I really needed it. Now, the second thing that I also did, because I knew that when it came to money habits, I didn't have the money and I always wanted to make sure my bills are paid on time. I had to find another strategy to be able to, to be able to keep enough money so that I don't go back to where I was, that is being broke and waiting for the next paycheck to come in. So the next key thing that I did was also, outside of 401k, I also opened what do you call another investment account. That is one of these big like Charles Schwab's or something different. And I also made an automatic money that went in there every month. Not even every month, sorry, every pay period. So what happened was that money went in there, and that one was 10%. And that money went in there automatically. And if it went in there, I didn't want to see what it looked like. I didn't care what came out, but unless if I really want to see it, I only go into my pay stub to be able to see that. So it got to a time I was working one job just to invest, and that money goes into these investment locations that I mentioned. And the other one went into sufficing my other daily activities, like the car insurance, the rent, all of these things. And even with that, it was sometimes very difficult. Like starting it, for instance, I believe that it was very, very difficult, especially seeing that a lot of the money that I'm making is going from, is going to something else that I don't see. But with time, when I saw the money grew, I was happy because I knew that I could always touch into that money whenever I needed it. And that is something that if you haven't looked into, I suggest you could look into. But these are some of the ways that the rich, or somebody who's trying to be rich, and in our case, trying to be wealthy or trying to build an investment, you could look into doing. Now I'm going to move from the screen, and then now we could go back to the screen because I have actual, avenues on things that we're going to be using. So this was how sometimes the rich views money and the poor views money. So that was, paying bills, savings account. Savings is always good. Long-term investing is always good. But sometimes I always say the money is going to be there. Just we'll discuss that later. I don't want to even go there yet. So now this one over here basically talks about it talks about some excuses that people make. And this one was just a pictograph that I had. It just talks about, I don't know where to start. Like when I ask somebody here right now, no, who here could tell me, or let me ask it this way. How many of you know exactly what to do to be wealthy, or have a business plan on something that could bring you a side hustle or cash flow? I know I have one or two people on the line who are already business owners. So I respect you if you're already a business owner, it's generating enough income. But the question is, how many of you already know what to do to develop a business or a cash flow that could make you financially free? Anybody? There's not one person or two people? Or maybe just say you maybe kind of have an idea of what to do to be financially free. Or say, this is going to be tough. So let me skip it, because that's one of the key points. To be wealthy, you have to be like very intentional about what you do and how you approach it. But we'll go there later on, and we're going to talk about it. I believe that is the reason why we're here today, to be able to know and learn how to, or where to start if we're not even aware of it, or if we're not even sure. So I'm glad you joined today. So some of the excuses that people use is, well, I am afraid I will lose the money. I says, I don't know where to start. I'm afraid I'll lose money. I don't have enough money. One of the best ways to build and grow your investment of wealth is, well, many don't even invest at all. And over again, surveys do reveal that the number of reasons why many Americans and Canadians don't invest is because of what? Fear of losing money, fear of or where to begin and all that. And I've heard a lot of people who say they don't know where to begin and all that, but I'm glad you're here today. And that is my ultimate goal today, to at least give you an idea of where to begin. So now the question here is, how do you build wealth? I think there was a chat in there. Okay, Alice had mentioned, it says Fidelity, Walter Reed, 401k. What could be a great focus? All right. Yep, Alice, thank you for that one. Just gonna put this here. All right. So now, how do you build wealth or financial freedom?
Me?
Go ahead, Sabi.
Sorry, I was 401k.
401k is like a retirement account. It's a retirement account where people put money in, saving towards their retirement. But in the
Like
United
pension,
States,
you mean?
that is correct. That is what would be defined. So
Right.
other
Okay. All right.
and then with
Sorry.
that, go ahead. With that over here, what happens is there's a stipulation that you cannot touch your 401k until you are where you are, maybe 65 or you're about to retire. But in the United States, that's definitely not true. You could always, I don't know about your side, but you could always tap into that money. And me, for instance, there's one of the, there's one of the jobs that I do that I have 401k is like 35%, and now the new one is 45% going in every month, but there's a cap to it. But with that same money, you could always borrow out of it. You could borrow out of that 401k and use it for your other investments. But these are all avenues.
That's nice.
Yeah, and that one is tax-free. Well, we could discuss that later, but that's also another way of using money tax-free and then paying it back, or borrowing from that money and also paying it back. But
okay, because like here, you can't touch it. Like it has to be when you are
retiring.
That's So it's really cool that like you guys can touch it. Like you.
Yeah, there's the part where the employer allows you to do like a vested one, and then so you could put some of your own money in there, and those vested ones you can always touch it anytime you want. And also sometimes when you're leaving the company, you're not afraid of losing on taxes, you can always cash it out and pay some taxes. But there's a little bit stipulation on that we could always talk about too, or you can find an accountant to talk about that too. But yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, what about Joshua? You said, what about Roth IRAs? It's also the same. It's also in the same ball game. So 401ks, Roth IRAs. Yeah, so 401k, there is those definitions, the Roth IRA and the traditional IRA. Both are all vehicles that are included in the, what do you call, in the 401k thing. So hopefully I answered that question. Life insurance, I don't know much about that. And to me, I don't do it. And that has not, I haven't done it before. And I think where I am now is sufficient. So I don't use, what do you call it, life insurance. So I haven't used that vehicle, financial vehicle of life insurance. So I can't really say much about that. So I'm going to skip on to the next one. So it's, how do you build wealth? So how do you build wealth? I believe that some of you had said it previously. You had said that, what do you call it, savings, cost reductions and avoidance, and also analysis and then this is how do you build wealth, basically would be personalized to everybody, or would be personal to everybody. How do you build wealth also would depend on the individual standing, or where the individual is at the moment and where they want to go, where they see themselves. So if somebody comes to me today and asks me that, or tells me that they want to be rich, first thing that I'm going to ask them is, what does riches mean to them, or what does it even mean to be rich to them? And that is the first thing that I want you to ask yourself today, because I know you on this call to be able to like gain some insight and wisdom. So the first thing is, what would wealth or being wealthy mean to you? You could take a book on a paper and just write it down. And then so that at the end of this session, you'll be able to gain something. So I want you to write down what would being wealthy or being rich, or what does wealthy means to you. And this is a personal question that you can answer for yourselves, because at the end of this, I would not be here unless you want to speak to me after, but I would not be here. So it's going to be just you yourself and how you make it work for you, or then taking the knowledge that you gain from here and how you're going to make it work for you. So the question is, what does wealth mean to you? Or how much do you think you want to have in the next 2 or 3 years or 5 years? Or even you could think a lifetime. What would being wealthy mean to you till the day that you retire, or for you to even retire easily?
Shut down. Alexa, shut down.
So as you've written down what wealth means to you, now I want you to figure out how long would it take for you to reach that goal? That's what I want you to write now. How long do you think it's going to take for you to reach there? So first question is, what does wealth mean to you? And the second one is, how long is it going to take for you to reach there? All right, so I'm going to give you some of the common things that people have done, and also I'm going to give you my practical example of what I did, or what I've done, or what I did to basically be here. So I believe it was about 8 or 9 years ago, I said to myself that I was going to make $1 million in 5 years. And then was saying that I was going to make $1 million in 5 years. At that time, it was like, you see what I just said? I said about 8 or 9 years ago, that is when I said it. But by that time, I didn't even have a clue of how to get there or what to do to get there. I was still working paycheck to paycheck. I was still being charged overdraft fees. I still had a very bad credit and all that. I still, if I say credit, if somebody's not local or anything, it's like the thing that it's like the financial health score that, this is in the United States, they used to track to borrow you money. So it's like, I didn't have all of these things, but, I was very broke at that time too. I was driving a car that was always at the mechanic shop more than I ever was. But one thing that I knew was I wanted to have $1 million in 5 years. And that was it. Now, the second thing that I did was I had to set a goal. And this is where I started listening to a lot of audiobooks on people who are rich, people who, I wouldn't say rich, but people who went from nothing to being somewhere. And this was where I started my journey of a lot of audiobooks. And if you need some audiobooks to read, I'll suggest some at the end of this. But then these were some of the things that I had to think about when I made up my mind that I wanted to have $1 million in 5 years. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go to the next one. And then now, after you've written all of these down, that is first one, you write in, what does wealth mean to you? The second one is, how long is it going to take for you to get there? Now break it all in session. Break it all down into pieces. So what does it mean to you? How? So it's the what, the how, and then what do you call it? The planning stage. This may be a little bit difficult for some people, but just don't be afraid. You could always get there. Just as long as you write something there. And then there was this book, I forgot the one who said it. If you don't have an idea of what wealth means to you or how to achieve it, what you could do is write 20 things that you really think that you could do or you really want to accomplish within the next 5 or 10 years. Maybe if I say 5 or 10 years, it's too much. Let's make it to 5 years. So now with that 5 years in mind, write those 20 things. And this could be something that you could do after this talk, because of time, and I want to respect everybody's time. So because of time, I'm just going to be quick about this one. But write all these things down. Then after you've written it down, you're going to break it down into pieces and ask yourself, after you've written how long it's going to take you to get there, now break it down into pieces. What are some of the daily things? Maybe day is going to be a much. What are some of the yearly things that I could do to get there? Then after you've done that, now you want to ask yourself, what are some of the things that I could change now or change today to be able to reach that goal or expectation? So now, why do I bring this up? I bring this up because it's very important with the next topic that we're going to be talking about. So over here, we have it that develop an intentional plan for to be financially stable and successful. Now, this comes into play with exactly what we just talked about. That is, for you to be very wealthy or for you to get anywhere, like even a pilot or anybody, they first come up with a plan. And then you remember when I said previously, I said the Bible already gives us all the principles in this life that we need. And most of these motivational books, it looks like their concepts or their principles are generated from the Bible, but then indirectly, because they do not mention their source or they change the wording, you never know where this is coming from. Now, why do I say planning? I say planning because even the creator of the universe, that is God himself, before he made a universe, he had a plan. So if you read the book of Genesis, it says, well, let us make man in our own image so that they rule over the earth or they take control of the things over the earth. So that he had a plan on, if we make man today, what is going to happen? They're going to be able to breed and take over or take charge or, take charge of the activities of this earth. Other books will tell you that before you start anything or before you go anywhere, you first have to have a plan. Like the pilots, for instance, the pilots would always have, draw out a plan. If they want to go from Vegas to maybe New York City, they always have a plan that they always have to follow. And then also being a pilot, they have a checklist that they always follow. And not only that, also, when somebody's driving from Canada to New York City, what do? They have, what do you call it? They have just that, is it 12 feet light that they see? So they only see step-by-step process. So they don't see like the light does not shine from Canada directly to New York City. It shines 12 feet or maybe the highest probably be 20 feet ahead for them to see to get to where they are. So it's like all that time they're driving in the night, all that time they'll be in the dark, but the light only directs them step by step, and then they just follow the GPS. Do you think that is what you're doing to your life today, or do you think you could have that program path or program destination for your life also? Or if I say intentionally developing a habit or intentionally developing a way to make you financially free, you think that this is something that you can do also, following the principles of planning? Now, what some people have told me is I don't plan, or it's not easy to plan, or sometimes the plan that you have does not always come to pass, or the plan that you have does not always come true. And I've had a lot of people also talk about they don't plan because, or they don't even have a New Year's resolution because those plans don't always come to pass. And yes, it's true. That is reality for you. But most of the time, it's like a matter of how bad do you want it? And then how often or how frequently are you going to do it? So let me just read what I have on the screen now. So I understand that many individuals may have reasons and excuses for spending all their money as soon as it comes to them, or it comes in, and for not achieving, or so many excuses for not achieving financial prosperity. Common explanations include paying bills, family responsibilities, not earning enough. And let me just ask this question, even for those on the line who make ridiculous money, like the doctors and all those stuff. How many of you here think you make enough, or can boldly say you make enough money so you don't have to ever worry about money again? So one thing that I know is money, as much as it's just a currency, as much as it just flows through us, there's never a time where somebody is able to say or boldly say they have enough of money, or they have enough, they have enough money that they don't have to worry about money again. There's never going to be that time. And it's always going to be there. The same way, the same way when it comes to, it's going to be the same way when it comes to, finances, or maybe the same way when it comes to bills, the same way when it comes to family responsibilities and all these things. All of these things would always exist. But then how do you break free of all these things? Or how do you learn to adapt so that when all these challenges and obstacle comes in, or as much as we all know you have these obstacles, I wouldn't say obstacles, but you have these responsibilities or financial responsibilities. How do we make saving, or make make an intentional habit of being financially stable and being financially successful one of our key priorities? So that is where we go for the next one. It says it's important to what? It is important to recognize that these factors are not going anywhere. They are all part of life. What truly matters is how you approach and perceive them. And also, as close as you have, you always want to have an open mindset. Let me give you an example. There was a friend of mine who was he started by making $0, right? So zero, that means he was dependent on his parents. And all of a sudden, he started making $40,000 a year, which, from 0 to 40 is very good. But then he's always complaining, I don't have much money, I don't have enough. Then he started making $65,000 during his residency. That is, he's a physician. He started making $65,000 during his residency. Still complaining, I don't have enough money, I don't make much, they're not paying me well. I said, sure. Now, the next thing is what? He now makes $280,000 a year. But guess what? He's still using the same thing. I don't have money, I'm not getting paid enough. So can somebody tell me what is missing here, or why do you think this is possible? He started from 0 to 40,000 to 65,000 to now 280,000 a year, and he's still saying he's not making enough. So can somebody tell me what is missing in the picture here? Anybody? Anybody wants to tell me what is missing in the picture here? He was making 0 to, yep, Sister Yvonne is saying financial knowledge.
Discipline.
Discipline, okay, yep. Sister, Mr. Class is saying that he spends, his spendings increases as he made more, yep, which is called the Parkinson's law of money. He's missing help. I don't know about that one, but yeah. So yeah, anybody else was saying something? All right, so let me just give you the key why this is happening. So the first one was what? He's not intentional about his money. And I just recently sat down with him and we started talking about that. And now we, hopefully after everything, after a year or two, we'll be able to strategize a way to get him out of that complaining. So the first thing that I want to, PK, were you saying something?
No, sorry.
That's okay. So why I brought this up was because no matter how much you make, if you don't have a financial discipline, or if you don't have that intentional attitude, or if you don't have that intentional mindset of saving and being financially free, regardless of how much you make, it's not really going to mean anything. I believe that a lot of you, the moment I said 280,000, that was like, whoa, wait, that's should be more than enough money. That's like $250,000 a year, and then he's still complaining about money. And that is the same with all of us also. I wouldn't say all of us because I don't know everybody, but that's the same with a lot of us also, or most of the individuals of today. not intentionally developing or not intentionally having a mindset of what finances mean to me, how I could intentionally use that to build more wealth, or how I could intentionally invest that to have a cash flow, sometimes it's very difficult. And this is where a lot of books and audiobooks and the friends you surround, and also what do you call it, counseling, and also just intentionally doing certain things comes in. There's this thing called the Parkinson's law of money, which states that the more money you make, the more your expenses increases. And just let me say to this friend of mine, yeah, he has a luxurious lifestyle, but then it's not that crazy much of a lifestyle also. But why he always complains, I'm not really sure. But just recently, you know, it was a one-on-one conversation. That's when I knew where the issue was coming from. But sometimes also it has to do with the mindset. We'll be talking about that in a little bit, but I don't want to jump ahead of myself. So let's just finish what is on the screen. So it says, remember, it's the mindset, or the mindset is the ultimate determination of our financial success. Let us embrace the positive mindset and take responsibility for our financial decisions and work towards building a brighter and more prosperous future. So let me throw this question to you now, and also on your list. You could add to your list if you want. Ask yourself, what can I do today? Or what is my financial health when we talk about today, and how can I make it better? And if your financial health is very better now, ask yourself, how can I improve to make it even more better in terms of passive income, so that I don't have to, if I decide to just not work today for a long time, what can I do to have just that passive income? And that is what you have. And you will always want to develop a certain mindset or a principle. So for successful people, or for like the wealthy people that I've met or I've read about, or maybe I've spoken to, it's always about how they can help others. That's the first thing that always comes to mind. They don't think about themselves first or what they have. They always think about how they could help others. Second thing is also how they could build their family, how they could be free and spend more time with their family. So these are some of the main elements some of the successful people that I know have done. But now with some of the, what do you call it, the poor people, I wouldn't say poor people, but you know, average people, let me just say, sorry for the word poor, it looks like derogatory, so I'm not going to use that. But the average people, what comes into mind when it comes to the same perspective or mindset that I just shared? Yes, they want that freedom. But then when it comes to money, the first thing that they think about is, I don't have this, why don't I have this kind of car? Or I'm not investing because investing is for people who are rich, or people who have more money to waste or more money to spend. But the truth is, when I first started, as much as I didn't have much, I always made sure that at least I wanted to have some money in the stock market. And we started with the stock market. I believe that the money that came to me that went into the stock market, there were days that I was losing, and there were days that, you know, I made some gains. But with time, I just got to learn and just choose. Like today, I only deal with just 2 stocks in the stock market. I don't do any other stocks. And then I'm still, you know, I'm still consistently making that avenue of cash flow. And then with the friend of mine that I was also talking about, or with some of us also, sometimes different avenues of cash flow is something that really helps. So while you're intentionally making a financial plan, the other aspect, or what I want you to add in there, is what sources of income, what other avenues can you do to achieve a different source of income instead of the one that you have now? Because I've been there where I've had 2 jobs, and then the money just came and it just went. You think one job is good enough, and then, you know, it's not good enough. But then again, all of a sudden you have 2 jobs, and all of a sudden, as much as you have the 2 jobs, the money also comes in and it just disappears. Well, let me just make a quick analysis with being intentional about your money and also setting goals and priorities. this year has already come. I'm not even going to go to next year, last year, or whatever. But this year, how many of you could say that, or boldly say that I've made enough financial decisions, and then, you know, or I've made enough intentional financial disciplines, and then now I'm a little bit proud of it. I've saved enough money to basically move on to the next month, or maybe if this year ends, I'm going to get there. I would be financially free for at least a month or two. And if you're living paycheck to paycheck, sometimes it's difficult to do that. But then the key word always is develop an intentional mindset or attitude. So if you're living paycheck to paycheck, first of all, first you have to start from somewhere. You have to start from the discipline of taking a portion of that money and paying yourself first. You could always do that. It's a shoebox. It's like a box where, like more like a piggy bank, where money goes in and you can't really touch it unless you really need to. Or you discipline yourself not to touch it because it's going to be that financial vehicle or avenue that you're looking for. So that is one of the key things that I've also done, and it's helped me. I mean, it's helped me a lot. So these are some of the things that you could intentionally think about to see, how is this going to help me, or how can I be financially free? Are we going to move on to the next one? Did I go forward? So the next one is what? Consistency and discipline to achieve wealth.
On the 9th.
So with consistency and discipline to achieve your wealth, can anybody tell me what they take out of this? How does consistency and discipline come into play when it comes to achieving your wealth or being rich or wealthy? Anybody? How does consistency and being disciplined helps with achieving your wealth or achieving the goals that you and expectations that you're looking for? Right. Let me jump in. So we're jumping in. You remember what we said previously. So we said that what? You first want to define your own definition of what makes you wealthy. Then the second one was what? How long is it going to take there to get there? So if you said 5 years or maybe 2 years, the next thing that I want you to follow is what? I want you to follow with this, what do you call it? With this mindset with this in mind. Consistency and discipline is always a key. That is, you plan in your mind to do whatever it takes for that period of time. That is either 1 year to 5 years. You do whatever it takes to get to that destination. Has anybody ever thought about intentionally doing that to be able to get to that place? Mr. Ken is saying that consistency helps with the forecast. That is true. So how many of you have used, or, you know, have intentionally said, I want to make $1 million in 5 years, and this is what it's going to take for me to get there, and then this is what I'm going to do to get there? Now, I'm going to use an example in my life also. So there's been times where, like what I explained previously, I had some jobs, but some of them was in different states and all that. Like, it wasn't a job, but it was more like buying real estate in different states. But what I was doing mostly was, as much as I wanted to give up that, don't get me wrong, there were a lot of days that I felt like giving up because I felt like it was too hard. There were a lot of days that I had my own obstacles too. I felt like giving up. But then there was this drive also that I had that it says, that I always said to myself, if I don't do it, no one else is going to do it. So those were some of, like, you see what we discussed previously, those were some of the key things. So the first one was what? Having an intentional plan to be or have that $1 million or be successful or be, I don't want to say successful, but be, because my definition of success will be different for somebody. But that forecast of making $1 million within 5 years, that was the drive. Then also after that drive, the second one was what? Having a plan or being intentional about getting there. And the third one was what? Being consistent with how to get there. So after I set the plan, there was that consistency of how to get there. So today, let me ask you, how many of you have developed just the plan or being intentional about, I want to have enough wealth in the next 5 years or a time span that you have, and then built from there? Because it's only a matter of time, but then before you realize, that time will come to pass very quickly. Like just this year, the time has come to pass, and some of us, the paycheck to paycheck or the pay that we make, we probably have spent it all already, and we don't even know where most of it went. But if you're intentional, from today, hopefully, if you're able to take anything out of this, be intentional about how much to save. If like 5% or 10%, and you could always start little by little. You don't have to start like 35 or 45% like I'm doing like a crazy person, but you could always start little by little every year, or not even every year, every pay period or every month. Then after you get there now, you want to be persistent and consistent with it. So that if you're doing it every pay period, you want to set up an automation or automatic system that drives this or that does this for you, because no one else is going to do it for you. And also you always want to develop some form of forgot the word, but affirmations for yourself. Some of the affirmations that I used was, if I don't do it, no one else is going to do it for me. Some of the affirmations that I used was, what do you call it? Yes, Mr. Ken is saying, think positive. Yes, I always stay positive. I said, even in various adversities, I always stay positive. In times when I wanted to give up and all those things, the goal and the plan was always in my mind so that I didn't just give up. And I want to bring something else in mind. Always start with the end in mind. I always had the goal or end in mind that I wanted to make that million. So if I wanted to make that million, what did I do? I had that goal in mind. And if it's the same with the pilots, if they want to get to Canada, what do? They have that end goal in mind. If the same with you, if you're driving from maybe a 20-mile journey or maybe a 50-mile journey, you have the end in mind, so that whatever it takes, all you do is you get into that end goal. What is it that you're doing or what can you do today to your financial achievements for you to get there today? Because I'm hoping this conversation or this talk will not just be a talk, but it will be something that would help somebody, so that the next time we meet again, somebody will say, at least, if $1 million is too much, let me just reduce it a little bit. Sorry about that. If $1 million is too much, let's start maybe at $10,000, $100,000, or 50, what do you call it? 500,000. Anybody was talking? Sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of like chip in on the answer to like maybe help out. I feel like starting by after you know what you want and know where you want to get to, when you set down your plans, you have to be diligent enough or discipline yourself enough. If even, I know it's usually hard, because that's one thing that, I don't know for some people, but I would say it's hard for me, because to be a disciplined person is the best thing anybody could ever get to be. So when you discipline yourself to stay faithful to what you've set in front of you, you will definitely achieve it. So disciplining yourself, and then in setting the goals of where you want to get to and how to get there. These are the 3 things I'd say. Yes, setting the goal, putting it in writing, that's another good part. And then disciplining yourself to stay consistent on it and stay on track.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, thank you very much for touching on. And he mentioned some of the things, the key factors that most of these successful people that we read about have done. That is putting it into writing. That is definitely a key, because I know almost everything that I've done so far, I had it all in writing. So I remember there was one time that I had a very big tax audit. And then what happened was, it was exactly what I had in mind, or what I had written down, that basically saved the day. So yes, whatever you do, make sure or try to write it down, and you could paste it anywhere that you can see it every day, so that this becomes persistent or consistent. And there were days that I was checking things off. I remember there was a specific year that I wrote down, I want to purchase 20 houses within 1 year. Guess what? I didn't meet all that goal. That year, I purchased only 5 houses, but the goal was 20 houses. So I put it back on the back burner, and then I put on another year. I was gonna buy that number of houses. And then the next year it didn't happen, but I was able to get up to 15 houses. So from there, every day I wrote down the address, crossed out the places that I didn't get to. So it's like being practical or being intentional about this is where I want to get to, and that is how I'm going to do it to get there. So thank you very much for mentioning it. Definitely writing it down. And also there were a lot of times where I put it on a calendar. Some of us, you may not have that time, or you say you don't have the time because you're always working. But I believe you have time to sleep. You have time to eat. You have time to do all these things. So maybe with some of us, it may take just waking up 1 hour early than your usual, or maybe sleeping 1 hour late than your usual, just to write these things down. Because all you're doing is you try to achieve this goal. You're trying to be disciplined. So first, be disciplined and also be consistent in achieving all of these things. I'm just going to move on because I want to be able to get everything done within the next 30 minutes so that we could ask any questions. Mr. Ken is saying thinking positive, and also Elon Musk saying failure is not an option. Yeah, definitely. So he mentioned Elon Musk, and I believe the moment you mentioned that name, everybody knows it. He's one of the pioneers of electric vehicles, and also PayPal. And as they say, learning from financial failures, and also there are always opportunities to learn and also to adapt fresh financial strategies. That is definitely very true. So all of these things are all pertinent, but then it all comes to the financial mindset, or the change in your mindset on where you want to be. Now, some of you may not even know where to start at. As I'm talking about this may be like, gibberish to you, or maybe it's like, this is like you are in this state because, what do you call it? You could be there or whatever. No, it started from somewhere, and you could also start from here. So if you could start from here, what is it going to take for you to get there? That is going to be your change of mindset. So if you're changing your mindset on this is how it's going to take me to get there, after you've written your goals and after you've written the long-term goals and the short-term goals and how it's going to take for you to get there, now you have to build a change in mindset. And how I did this was basically with a lot of audiobooks. And if I say a lot of audiobooks, it's a lot. There were some that I listened when I was driving. There was some that I listened. Sometimes I fell asleep and I wake up and that same audiobook will be playing. And there are other audiobooks that I've listened for so many times, like I can't even tell you. And before I even decided to speak today, or it's been a few months, I think I finished 25 different audiobooks. And I believe it was a month ago when she told me to lead. And I finished 25 different audiobooks, all on finance and also all on these things to be able to speak. But then all of these books were all geared towards the same concepts that we're talking about today. Developing an intentional plan, setting a goal, being disciplined and consistent, and also having that financial mindset. All the books they talk, sometimes it was 9 hours, 12 hours, 17-hour audiobooks. But all of it, the summary of it all was exactly what I have in the PowerPoint today that we're going over. So for you to do it, just develop that mindset or have a change in mindset. Some of you, maybe your environment, your friends, or anything. See what you could do to build that mindset on how to get there. If audiobooks is not your thing, I suggest reading, but reading is not always something for other people like myself. So that's why I don't really suggest reading, like taking a physical book to read. But if you could do it passively, I know somebody who tells me they can't, they cannot listen to audiobooks, especially the Bible. And then I was telling them the other day, or they said something and I just quoted something in the Bible verbatimly from some scripture. And then they asked me, so what did I get from after reading the whole chapter, or like listening to the Bible? And I just told them exactly what that verse meant. And I summed up also the whole chapter for him. from what I just had listened or read. Now, I call it read as in listen. So if you say me read or listen, just know I'm trying to say the same thing. So what are you going to do today? My question is, what are you going to do today to be able to change your mindset? To be able to move you from that, what do you call it? It's called a comfort zone. So if you read here, it says, well, shifting our mindsets and embracing on what do you call unwavering determination to do whatever it takes to what is the powerful catalyst or the powerful key or the powerful tool for achieving our goals. When we adapt the mindset or that mindset, we become what? We become unstoppable in the pursuit of success. It says by recognizing that our mindset plays a pivotal role in our accomplishment, we can intentionally accumulate or cultivate a mindset of determination. This mindset empowers us to overcome the obstacles, persevere in the face of challenges and push beyond our comfort zones. Now, as we've spoken today, I believe that a lot of you or some of you may decide to do it. And just remember, there's always going to be obstacles. There's always going to be that challenge. There's always going to be something that is going to stop you. I remember there was one time that was 12 years ago or 13 years ago in the Bronx where my goal was to be able to, I was reading a book about do not worry. It's called Why Worry? That was the name of the book. It was a big book. And all of a sudden I'm trying to apply certain principles because I was trying to see what it takes not to worry. And see somebody say, you of all people, what do you worry about? Yes, I sometimes worry, but then I try to limit it to certain ways. So with that book, the principle that is used was, if you're worrying about something, first think about, is it going to matter in 5 years? And they called it a rules of 5. If it's going to matter in 5 years, yes, think about it and, give it some time and also speak to the right people to move on. But if it's not going to matter in 5 years, that is you basically, I don't know what example to use, but let me just use my example. So mine was a ticket. And in the Bronx, I had so much driving tickets or driving obstruction tickets. And then at one time I was driving to New York City to basically get a job interview. And whilst I was driving, I got pulled over by a cop. Like it was something that I'm like, oh no. And I wasn't surprised because it was something that always happened. So the first thing that came to my mind is I've reached the limit of the driving where like the next ticket that I get or the next point that they give me, they're going to suspend my license. So guess what? I started worrying. So here I go with reading a book about do not worry about anything. And all of a sudden now this situation has happened. And then now I have to worry because the first thing was I try to apply the principles of the book. That is, do not worry. So think about it. If it's not going to matter in 5 years, think about it. Think about it just for 5 minutes, which was the rules of 5. I started thinking about it for 5 minutes. I'm like, yeah, it's going to matter in 5 years because my license is going to be suspended, blah, 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 blah. I could give it an attorney, but an attorney's it's still going to happen. So now here I go. And then automatically I remembered myself for the next thing that the book said. The book said, as much as you worry about, it's not going to change. If it's not going to change the situation, then move on and then what? Apply the next step or apply the mindset of it's already happened. I'm willing, whatever happens, let it happen, but I'm going to find a way for it not to happen again and take the lesson from it. Now, my question today is, what do you do when you face obstacles? What do you do when something doesn't go the way you planned it? Do you just sit down and let it be the dictatorship of your life's journey? And I know a lot of people I know some people who's even in the past, basically because of maybe some financial decision that they made, or maybe some laws that they made in the stock market, or some laws that they made in a business, or some laws that they've seen their dad have done, or some laws that they've seen that somebody else has lost, and then they stuck in that old place. And because of that, they're not making that investment decision that could have changed or been a life changing to them. So today, what is the mindset that you have to change to be able to, what is the mindset that you have to change to be able to move past where you are now? What is the mindset that you have to, develop to move past the obstacle? So with the example that I just used, that is with somebody who basically who saw someone's, saw someone's failure, and all of a sudden they've used that as quote unquote a failure that could happen to them, or they had the society dictate and say, there's a failure, there's always a loss in the stock market, or there's a loss there. And because of that, they don't endeavor to do anything. There's a lot of us that would be on difference, and we'll come across all of them. But always remember the rules of 5. The rules of 5, what does it say? If the thing is not going to matter in the next 5 years or in 5 years, just take a short time, that is 5 or 10 minutes, and then what? Think about it, deliberate on it, and find a way not to repeat it. If it's going to matter in 5 years, seek counsel, read a lot of books about it, or even YouTube. There are a lot of people who do what you're doing, or who are in the same place that you are, and then they've shown how they will overcame those obstacles. Now, when it comes to what we talked about as in, what do you call it? Was somebody trying to ask any question? Yes, the name of the book is Why Worry? Why Worry? That's the title of the book. So yeah, you can read that. And also there's another book, it says How to Stop Procrastination. That also gives you a very vivid oversight of how to overcome those things, or things that you could put in place to stop procrastinating. But these are some of the things. So now we're going to move on to that. That is, after we've changed our mindset, what is the next thing that we do? We have to learn to endure some risks. We have to learn to accommodate some form of risks. Now, with accommodating some form of risks, I know everybody's risks will be different. And regardless of where you go, how you see things, there's always going to be some form of risk that is involved. There's always going to be that thing that will test you to see if you really mean what you said you're going to do. So remember the time when I was applying the principles of the book Why Worry? And then the first thing that I came into mind was, I'm about to, I didn't intentionally say I was going to test the book, but then something came into play, which was getting the ticket, and also, what do you call it? Getting the ticket, and within that time, that test came immediately, where I had to, after getting the ticket, I had to see if what I learned, I could apply it to my personal life. Yes, I tried, and then in the end, I still got a ticket anyways, and then my license was suspended, but it was only suspended for 3 months. Not 3 months, I'll say less than that, probably within a month. And then I was able to still drive and do everything that I have to do. So it was like, within that moment, if I had worried for so long, where would that worry have gone to? It would have just been a waste of my own time. Why? Because I worried for nothing. Like, it's like it's already passed and it's in my head. So let it stay in there, or forget about it. And then think about what to do in the future, which is in your hands, and you could always maneuver the course, believing and also having faith. So always remember the same thing that we talk about. The principles are all in the Bible. And if you're a Christian, these should come easily to you. Abide by the word of God. But then if you're not a Christian, also all these worldly books, I wouldn't say worldly book, but these motivational speakers and all of these people, they all apply the same principles. And then the same way with the books that I read before I listened for coming to speak to you, which is more than 25 books on finance and everything, which they all iterate, or in a summary, they all talk about the same thing. They also take that concept or the principles that is already engineered in the Bible, and they also apply it, but they say it in a different way. So if you don't read much, or if you don't know much, you may think it's something new, but the truth is it's always been there. And then successful people have been using the same thing. So if you just joined that, it's the same thing. We're talking about, what do you call it? Generational wealth, and also making and saving money, or to have that freedom that we always need. So Now, the desire to accommodate some level of risks and also having faith. Now, you remember what I just said about what do you call it? The stock market, and some people, they still dwelling in the past of what may have gone wrong, and then because of that, they don't want in becoming or facing certain things, or even trying again to do something, even when it looks like they could have tried again and won. Dwelling in the past, sometimes it's hard, or it's difficult to move past things that we dwell in the past, but it helps a lot if you are able to look at the past and use it as a learning example and ask yourself, what can I do this time? What can I do this time to move from this dimension to a different one? When I started, I had a lot of, what do you call it? I had a lot of downfalls. I had a lot of times when I said to give up. I mean, it was a lot of downfalls. But looking back today, those shortcomings or those adversities or those things that brought me, made me feel like giving up, those are the same things that are lessons that are helping me in today's business. That is into what I'm doing today. So today, what I want to tell you, or what I want you to look at is, if you're viewing something, or if you see an obstacle, or if you're faced by an obstacle, or if there's something that is not wanting to make you to move past where you are, or even take the risks, ask yourself, what benefit is there for me in this one? And try to see beyond that risk, try to see beyond that obstacle, so that you always want to stay optimistic, even when it doesn't seem realistic. I remember a couple of years ago, all that I kept saying was, I'm a real estate investor when I was dead broke. I'm a real estate investor when I had nothing to basically even show in my name. I'm a real estate investor. Like, it's called the make-believe. That is, I don't want to say the word fake it till you make it, but then it's the reality. You don't have it now. So what do you want to do? You want to speak it into existence till you make it. And then if you read on the screen also, what do you see? It talks about faith. And then I believe that I don't want to make it more scriptural, but then these are where my principles comes from. The principles comes from faith is what? The substance of things that you hope for, or the evidence of things not seen, or the reality of things that you have not seen. So that today, if you want to be financially successful, if you want to be financially wealthy, what do you see? You want to see that, you want to perceive that, you want to see that picture. So that in the same way that we just said, if you want to intentionally if you intentionally want to be rich, or if you intentionally want to be financially free, list all the things that when you become financially free, list all of those things, and then have that reality in mind and try to start living your life in that way. There's going to be a time when you have to be frugal at some things. I don't want to say frugal as in like, it's necessary, but you don't want to buy. But then frugal as in like, you let go of certain things that is not a need, or certain things that is like the luxury just to please other people, and just dwell within the means of, this is what I just need for this moment until I get to that bigger picture that I'm looking for, that disciplined place that I want to get to. I'm going to do this till I get there, if it makes sense. So the desire to accommodate some risk levels. So it says, well, the willingness to embrace and then also endure certain levels of risk is born deep within us, that as you grow. So these should be like a character trait. These should be certain things that you should see in yourself and try to develop. It wouldn't come just one day. Some people, they may have grown with people, or they may have friends who do these things on a daily basis. So to them, it comes easily. But what about us who these things does not come easily? We have to develop it. We have to build that mindset. We have to, have that attitude to be able to build that mindset of, or desire to basically say, this is what I'm going to do. And the risk level that I'm talking about, I always have a risk level that I want to take. So when I started, for instance, I didn't mind losing up to $20,000. Why do I say this? I had this man who was in his 70s, that is Maurice. And then and he's older. So he had this discussion with me. He's like, the stock market, I can't really do the stock market. Why? Because I'm old. But for you, you're a young guy. And being young comes with its own perks. That means you could lose money now, or you could lose now, and you still have a whole lifetime or maybe decades to be able to make it back. But for him, because he's older, because he's older, because he's older, he couldn't do the same thing. That he has to be planned and be consistent with what he did. So these are some of the things that you want to do. So surround yourself with people who, take these risks, or people who would guide you through these risk factors. Now, the next one is invest in yourself and pay your time first. So investing in yourself and also paying is what you do. That is, you basically invest in books, just like the same thing that I was discussing. Invest in books and also paying yourself first. That is 10% or maybe 5%, but always have that factor to give. That is, do not limit yourself in giving. A lot of people would limit ourselves in giving, that is given to the church, given to friends, given to the needy, because maybe $10 today or maybe $1 today may not mean much to you, but to someone else, it may mean a very big thing to them. And you may lighten their day. And then that positivity that they saying like something good about you also brings, I don't want to say karma, but then it shines a light to you, changes your day also. So first, prioritize yourself first before anything else, and then move on from there. I have it on the screen. So it says self-care and personal development is a valuable practice that yields long-term benefits. By adapting to the principles of paying yourself first, we recognize the importance of allocating time and resources and energy to towards self-improvement. Paying ourselves first also means that prioritizing our financial well-being. It involves setting aside a portion of our income for savings and investments, ensuring that we build a solid financial foundation for the future by allocating resources towards our own financial growth and security, and also creating a financial path to independence. So that is some of the things that I want you to take out of this one if you don't have anything. Now, these are some of the practical ways. Because of time, I'm just going to rush through this. Maybe another time, or if you want us to speak one-on-one too, I will always be available. But these are some of the practical applications to start a side hustle. Starting a side hustle, the first one was the internet. And we all know all of these things, because somebody will be asking, how do I really start this? How do I really perceive this? How do I make money? How do I develop a side hustle aside from my 9-to-5 job? Something that I could basically get tax benefit off from. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to what do you call it? These are just the random things, but it's not something that you should do now, but think about out of the box, or these are the very popular things. It says internet marketing, stock market, and the stock market being bringing new ideas, the viral videos, which is YouTube. I don't know, it's 1 in a million times chance to do that. It says work hard towards your passion. And because of time, but if you look at it, when you talk about working hard doesn't always bring wealth or success. That is, if you're working hard without a plan, it would not go anywhere. So you always want to have a plan, and also why you're working hard, so that in the end, you'll be able to cross-check or look back at what you were doing and the hard work, and also move on from there. And also investing in something that earns you royalties and patent to real estate investing. My place that I work now that has thrived or have been very helpful to me is in real estate. And that is what I do now. And I'm glad I'm doing it, and I'm glad that I found that niche, because previously, before that, I was all over the place and not doing anything that was beneficial. Now, there's one app, or there's one thing that I believe that will help everybody. So if you have a pen and a paper, or if you haven't even opened it, it's called artificial intelligence, or AI. You can write this down and look it up on your own. It's called it's like the ChatGPT or Chat Open AI. Once you click on or you write Chat Open AI, all you have to do is you sign up for it. And the next thing that it's going to do is type in anything that you need. That is, if you want to develop a financial habit, if you want to develop a health habit, if you want, just type it in, and it will just automatically generate everything that you need for you. It will generate the step-by-step process. And you can use this in your workplace. You can use this anywhere. The website is chat.openai.com, and it's just ChatGPT. So another one is also finding mentors. I barely had a mentor when I started. So YouTube was always my mentor. I looked at what people have done in the same workplace or in the same avenue that I was in, and then I built from there. But now I have a lot of mentors and also mentees, but then I started with nobody, which points me out to say that if you have nobody or nothing to basically focus on, or if you have nothing to start from or nowhere to start from, don't be afraid. Don't use that stereotypic thing that people always use and say, you need somebody, or you need a source, or you need somebody, or you need something to be able to start. Just start with whatever you have now. And then with time, whatever you need would also come in. And also financial education is also another key fact that people are using today as a side hustle to make money. Mr. Aiku, are you on the line? Can you please, Mr. Aiku, are you please on the line, or Dr. Aiku?
Yes, I'm here.
So I wanted you to help a little bit. Can you please tell us about, like, when it comes to Africa, or like if it comes to the global market, what do you think are some of the side hustles that one could apply today that, would help them with making income or building wealth?
Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity. So I think from our part of the world, Ghana,
Can you hear me? It looks like your line is off. I'm not sure what happened, but hopefully if he comes back, we could talk about it. But I'm just going to jump in because are you on there? Okay. All right. So while we wait for him to come, these are some of the best financial books that one could read or you can listen to that would help you to develop some money habits or also make enough capital or income. Mr. Aiku, are you back?
yes, I'm talking about the fact that in our part of the world,
Yeah.
in order to start a side hustle or something, you need to be really prepared for it. The God factor is key. But some of the things you can start is what we call affiliate marketing. A lot of people I know are making a lot of money by promoting other products and services of other people and be on a referral commission. So I know a lot of people who are working full-time, but they are doing affiliate marketing, which is based on commission. I know other people too who are using the Uber, Bolt, Yango as a way of making money. So there are a lot of guys, when they finish from work, they use their cars, they are on these platforms, and they are able to make some money. And then another thing that we can also think about in Ghana and then in Nigeria especially is selling products on online marketplace. So there are a lot of online marketplaces, there are a lot of SMEs, there are a lot of brands that people may be interested in. For instance, on Jumia, there's an opportunity for you to
Repeat that. I said on Jumia. Sure, looks like we having coverage or network issues, Miss. All right, so I'm just gonna jump in. Mr. Iko, I'm gonna take over from here if that's okay, just because of time. So these are some of the best, thank you very much. So he was talking about the marketing, affiliate marketing, and also places or how people are making money or building wealth in Ghana. And these are some of the things that he mentioned: affiliate marketing, Jumia, rideshare, and other things that you can use to develop wealth. So these are some of the best books that you can read. You can screenshot the screen if you haven't, or if you don't have the time to write. But also, we're gonna add one thing to it says the past is in what? The past is in your head, the future is in your hands. So with the information that you have today or you've heard today, what are you going to do with it? What can you do with it? The key or everything is in your hands today. And for you to change or for you to be able to build your future wealth or your net worth, it's all in your hands today. And the scripture that I always use says, this thing that I've told you is not beyond the oceans that you're going to ask who's going to go beyond the oceans and bring it. It's all right here with you in your heart. And it's up to you for you to start it today. So I hope that the next time we meet a year from now or so, or 2 years from now, somebody will be able to tell me they listened to this and heeded some of the things that was in here, and then they've made more